This is K-12 Tech Talk. K-12 Tech Talk. The podcast by K-12 Techs for K-12 Techs. Real conversations, real arguments, and real banter on trending K-12 technology topics and issues.
Live from the NTP studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. I am Josh. I'm back. But unfortunately, we are missing someone this week. Chris is out. He claims to have graduation stuff going on. I don't know if I buy it.
Surprise, surprise.
Mark is here, and I'm going to try my darndest to make him laugh tonight. I don't know. He seems to be a little curmudgeon-y, more curmudgeon-y than normal, maybe. So my goal is to make him laugh tonight. So NTP, our studio sponsor, who's been with us for weeks and weeks and weeks. If you are in the market for advanced antivirus, Sentinel-1 specifically, and a SOC as a service, I guess you don't need to say the second service. SOC as a service, email David, DWREN at ntp-inc.com, and they can get you hooked up. And I'm telling you, they have some of the best pricing you will find on an EDR and SOC service together. Email David, tell him you heard about him here. I got to see, I haven't been on the show for 2 weeks, so I have had a lot go on in my life. Like a lot. I can't even begin to explain what's been going on. But one thing I did do, I got to see David a couple weeks ago, and he informed me that, you know, he is a world-class pickleball player, and he is giving up pickleball, and this is a shock to the pickleball world. But he is taking up professional rock climbing, and that's an Olympic sport. I didn't really realize that, but like Olympic rock climbing is a thing. David is taking that up. So
he's taking up, like, that makes it sound like he's starting rock climbing, and he's going right to pro.
Well, he hasn't qualified yet. I think the Olympic team was actually, I think, picked last week. Some dude I follow on Twitter, I think it was Ray Redacted on Twitter, who's a producer of Darknet Diaries. His son is going on the Olympic rock climbing team, and maybe that's where David got the idea to start rock climbing. But man, he shook my hands. You can tell he's been working out. His grip, like, yeah, he's been lifting weights or something. So yeah, email David at NTP. Tell him you heard about him here and his rock climbing profession. He gave up pickleball. Tell him congratulations. So on to the news. Mark, what do you got? We had a tornado here. That's news. In the last 2 weeks, it feels like we've had like 12 tornadoes come through. I told Mark my doorbell might ring because there's fly-by-night roofing companies going through my neighborhood like crazy. So yeah, if you hear that, you'll hear me yelling at, get off my lawn.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
what you got, Mark?
Speaking of bad guys, big news for anybody who was hit by the Kaseya ransomware. I think you guys talked about that at one point.
Mark.
Chris was impacted by that, right?
Yeah, Chris, I think, still has Kaseya. And then former co-host Corey was using Kaseya, I believe, at the time. So that hacker has gotten jailed. What'd they nail him with?
An 11-count indictment charging him with conspiracy to commit fraud. And
this sounds really
conspiracy to
somebody
damage.
Else we know has 11 indictments.
Oh yeah, we can't really have that conversation without Chris here. It's not as fun. But yeah, conspiracy to commit fraud in related to computer activity, damage to protected computers, conspiracy to commit money laundering, sleeping with a porn star. Wrong one there.
That's not illegal. That sleeping with a porn star is not illegal, Mark.
There's your title of the episode. So he has been not just arrested, but he has been sentenced this week to 13 years and 7 months in prison in order to pay, get this, $16 million in restitution.
Wow.
So yeah, and it wasn't just him. Obviously, there was a group, but he was arrested for his role in coordinating it, and this was a Ukrainian national. And this was, yeah.
Did the article say how much he was able to take in ransom?
I don't know. I probably could go into the details of that one, but probably at this point the answer is nothing.
Yeah, well, it's probably been seized, but still, man, that huge of a fine and quite a few years in jail. I mean, great. What? Okay, so was he tried in a U.S. court or a Ukrainian court? Okay, so he was extradited. Okay.
No, I should check on that one. I was assuming that he was here in the United States.
Yeah, I would assume as well, but I mean,
yeah,
it would have had to have been extradited.
But to your point around like how much did they get, I don't have that answer, but in the court documents it did say that they had demanded over 700 million. So it's a question of how much actually got paid. If you do the math of what the average payment rates are, I think it's somewhere around 50%. It obviously depends on the industry, but you're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in that case. So
that's
whether or not they got that, whether or not he got some or all of that as well is unstated. So
well, and you look at that
for the good guys.
That was how many years ago? That was before you were on with us. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago,
20?
right?
Yeah.
And the United Healthcare ransom was what, 220 million ransom for a single incident?
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, months ago, I guess now. Yeah, crazy. Protecting Kids on Social Media Act. Tell me more, Mark.
Yes. So there is a bill that is currently in the Senate. By the time you listen to this one, it might be a little bit farther along, but there's two parts to this one that we're going to talk about. The first is a bill that is progressing. It was originally pushed forward, or has been pushed forward by Schatz, from a Democrat from Hawaii, but also has bipartisan support. So this is a bill that is getting, finally, something is getting attention on both sides of the aisle. This is going to be really focused on banning kids under the age of 13 from social media altogether.
Wow.
The reason, though, that it's applicable to us is there is a related bill, and there is at some point some discussion as to whether or not these two bills might get merged or put into one, called the that was the Protecting Kids on Social Media Act. Well, another one that is also floating around is the Eyes on the Board Act, and this is from Ted Cruz down in Texas. This one bans social media in the schools. So this is one that is definitely applicable to us. And so while the Eyes on the Board Act right now is not in front of the Senate or not in front of lawmakers, there is a chance it could get snuck into both. And you could have one that bans social media both outside of school and in school.
So I saw an email from our friend Doug over at K-12-6 today about the redoing or refreshing of COPA or COPPA.
Yes.
You know, I prefer Copacabana because I like singing that song. I like pina coladas in the rain. So I kind of wonder if these don't go hand in hand with that as well. But the whole Eyes on the Board Act thing, I'm sure there are schools that do use social media in school, but the way COPA is written now, you shouldn't be doing that under the age of 13 anyway, right, Mark? Or am I kind of making...
Well, the Eyes on the Board takes it a step further and just says social media is banned. Now, the hard part about this one, there were a few of us that actually wrote into our senators to say, oh, wait. We have some concerns here because you're not really defining social media. You can tell that the intent is the Facebook, TikToks, Instagram type platforms, but the definition of social media really is around like user-generated content. So then you raise the question of, okay, are we blocking YouTube in schools? Are we blocking Wikipedia because that is user-generated content? So there's a lot of concerns around like, I get what you're trying to do. And I do support legislation that says we got to do something about social media and the impacts on kids, but they're really trying to bring it into the classroom. And this is one where the governance of this actually would be an E-rate. So there was another concern too around it would just be a rule that you'd have to enforce if you take E-rate money. And so that's just the kind of thing where we're a little bit concerned too about, wait a minute, you're putting a restriction on an E-rate. You're not really defining social media. And so there's a little bit of concern about the Eyes on the Board Act and whether or not that might get snuck into the Kids on Social Media Act.
Does Eyes on the Board only pertain to students, or is it a blanket school shouldn't be doing this at all? Like, I'm just thinking of my district. We have a PR person that manages multiple Facebook pages for our district for one of each of our buildings, yada yada. I'm assuming that's not going to affect that operation. It would be an operation of students using social media.
Yeah, it's around banning students. It's not necessarily, I should change my wording here. It's not about banning it from your network. However, like, we all know how that's going to work.
Right.
There's going to be schools that kind of take that to the nth degree and say that it's banned for everybody, but the intent is for students.
There was some legislation in Missouri a couple of years ago, and it was when the whole Parents' Bill of Rights thing was a buzzword by a certain party. And one of the things that was a talking point was banning video sharing websites. And Mark, like you in this, I know what they were getting at. That was meant to be probably TikTok.
Yeah.
But I contacted my local rep and I'm like, look, the way this is written, YouTube is a video sharing website, as is Vimeo, as it, pick whatever.
Yeah.
You really need to bring this scope in a little bit. Thankfully, that bill didn't go anywhere because our state legislature is dysfunctional.
No, there's wording in there too around schools having to provide guidance or screen time limitations. And I think I do agree with screen time limitations. I don't think this is a federal thing, but I do think that we should be, being very careful about how much we're putting kids in front of the screens.
Absolutely.
At home and at school. So there's also some talk about that as well. Right at the time of this recording, it's unknown as to whether or not the social media stuff in schools is going to be added into that bill, but it's something that we do need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would invite Mr. Cruz on the podcast, but he's getting in trouble for being on podcast. Let's talk about one of our sponsors, Visor, real quick. Visor has been with us for a while. Let's see, Visor does student device management software. Got laptops, Chromebooks, iPads? No problem. Visor is still running their spring promotion from the spring a couple months ago, offering techs that attend a Visor demo, Vizor, a free K-12 Tech Talk hoodie. Go to visor.cloud/K12 Tech Pro to get signed up. And a couple weeks ago, before we went to Miami, I was at the K12 Tech Pro headquarters in Chris's neighborhood. Might have been his garage. And I got to see the shelves of empty space that used to hold K12 Tech Pro hoodies because there are so many people taking these demos. So if you want one of these coveted K12 Tech Pro hoodies, super soft, super warm, summertime maybe not the right time, but it'll get cold again. Check out Visor, sign up for one of their demos, and we will ship you one of the K12 Tech Pro hoodies. All right. Let's see. Listener emails. We got a couple listener emails. What do we got here, Mark? We got one from Greg.
Okay, so we were just I'm in the Northeast, so I got like another month and a half. But for other people around the country, we get to the end of the year. So we get 2 listener emails related to the end of the year. The first one, Greg writes in, we're getting to the end of the year and the inevitable tech junk pile. Josh, do you have that?
Oh my God. Yes. My guys. Yeah, it's massive. I'm kind of a pack rat, but yeah.
We just went through cleaning of our building too. And it's unbelievable what just gets pulled out of drawers. But he goes on, I'm nervous with hard drives and I'm sure more of them end up in the trash than I'm comfortable with. What should we be doing with old computer hard drives?
Dude, that's a fear of mine. We're pretty religious about pulling drives out of machines that we're getting rid of. And to be honest, I've got a pile of spinning discs that need to be shredded. So I had a relationship with our local recycler years and years and years ago when I was at a former job, and they got a brand new drive shredder in, and they're like, "Hey, if you've got some drives, bring them up, and we'll let you shred them." That was the coolest like hour and a half I spent for years because I literally just chucking these drives on a little conveyor belt, and it wasn't long. It was maybe 5 feet conveyor belt, and it was going into this machine, and it just sounded like utter destruction, like these teeth rolling over. You can look it up on YouTube, different videos of drive shredders. They are amazing to watch and coming out the other end, 1/4 inch pieces. Um, Unfortunately, that company isn't around anymore. And the local recyclers that offer that now want like $7 to $10 a drive to do that. And I am too much of a tightwad to spend that. So we're trying to find ways, the best ways to do that. D-band's been around forever and ever and ever, and you can write zeros on drives, but it also takes like 7 hours to write all the zeros on a spinning disk. So yeah, we've had a lot of discussions. Is a drill press with a drill where you are drilling a hole through the platters enough? I don't
Hadn't
know.
thought about that one. I was going to suggest the same thing that you had mentioned earlier. Sometimes there's a local company. I've even heard that local police might have a drive shredder.
Oh,
If you can take advantage of that, it depends on where you are. But we outsource that stuff. So
do
we
you?
have recycling company that takes junk, and we build that into the contract of what they're supposed to do with the hard drives. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose with the recycling companies in terms of cost.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the recycling companies that we do business with, they're willing because we get rid of such a large quantity of junk at a time. They're
Yeah.
willing to take it for free because they know they'll in the end they'll make their money back, and that's kind of the part that concerns me because okay, if they're making their money back, that means they're selling it, which I don't want them to sell one of my drives. I want them to destroy that drive. I don't want
Yeah.
that drive to
Yeah.
be usable and be used somewhere else, even if they formatted it once or twice.
Yeah.
Like I don't like that idea.
I
So
I think I get more sales emails from recycling
oh my
companies
god.
than any other
Yeah,
sector.
unless it's E-rate season. But yeah.
Yeah. Craziness.
So yeah, is breaking the drive enough? Is drilling a hole with a drill press enough? Is giving the drive to your SRO and letting them use it for target practice enough? I don't know. Why don't you email us and tell us what you think? K12techtalk
I,
at gmail.com.
I wasn't going to go that way. I was going to probably just go towards the software options, but
Oh, were
giving it
you?
to your
Okay.
giving it to your SRO to take it for target practice.
I mean,
It's
they got to
something
do
I hadn't
range
thought about.
time. They got to do
Yeah,
range time.
no. I don't think we should officially recommend that, but yeah.
No, I said it was an option. And that's what I'm asking for listeners to reply with their thoughts on
Yeah.
drive destruction options. I mean, so supposedly D-band doesn't work on SSDs. I don't know if that's accurate or not. So there's a D-band was purchased by a company and now they're still offering D-band for free for download, but there's another product that they're selling. Um Again, I don't know what the best answer is. It
Hmm.
is a single hole through all 3 or 4 platters enough to say nobody's going to recover this drive. Somebody told me the other day, you're in K12, no one's going to go to the trouble if you've, punched a hole in it. No one's going to go to the trouble to try and recover that. If it plugs in and it works, great. If you plug it in and it doesn't work, okay, that drive's done. I don't know, man. I don't know if that absolves you of your implied risk or not.
I'm not answering a drill press question.
I didn't ask if you
uh
could use one, Mark.
Well, speaking of which, the other question is very similar to end of year cleanup. Sue from California asks, I have a few teachers who want to use Google Takeout to take their lessons with them. Should I allow this? And what about for students? Let's separate this one out. Students
Yes.
and then staff.
Yes.
Students. Okay, so Google Takeout there with Microsoft Office 365, you can also if you have a personal account, you can drag and drop files between the two accounts.
Those three
So
listeners.
are you allowing staff and students, starting with students, to take their files with them?
Students, yes. They need to.
Great.
They need to have a nice episode. Thanks for listening. Yeah, no, we actually, I don't know that we've sent that email out to students yet because graduation's in about a week and a half. Yeah, we'll turn that on for seniors, and they can take their whatever content they want, their email, their Google Docs, whatever.
Okay, so students are the same way. We allow, and we also notify, like alert them and say, hey, you can do this. Don't forget. So I would put students in the allow and encourage category.
Yes.
Staff.
No way. No, hard no. Well, I thought you were frozen there. You're like, no facial reaction. You didn't move. Like,
I'm not surprised that you went straight to the no and had zero follow-up. Zero.
I mean, it's not a discussion. Like, so we had a problem as a couple of years ago. We had a problem, and we had a teacher that left, went somewhere else, and was attempting to copy all of their grade level curriculum to take to the new school and give to the new school. And that started a conversation of content that teachers create at work for work is property of work. It's not property of the teacher. So that started the conversation around turning off takeout and limiting the abilities for that to happen. Then a couple of years ago, more recently, a couple of years ago, we had a teacher who was retiring that called me and asked for the best way to take the contents of her Google Drive with her. Now, a couple problems here. Again, you have the conversation of content created at work for work is work's content, not teacher's content. So you have that discussion to have, which she absolutely did not want to take part in that conversation. You have another conversation of student data privacy. So it came down to the question of, and I asked her this, can you guarantee me that if I allow you to use Google Takeout on your drive to copy it to your personal drive, that you don't have any student work, student identifiable information, IEPs, whatever, in your Google Drive that should not go? Like, it's protected information. She's like, no. I'm like, well, then there's your answer. We can't allow this to happen. And I think, part of it was nostalgia. She wanted to have some of that stuff that she had created. Part of it was teachers make a decent amount of money on Teachers Pay Teachers. So I think she wanted to sell some of that content, which again, if she created it for work at work, it is works. So yeah, that put a pretty hard stop to Google Takeout use for anyone besides senior class. Long story.
You could have just said no.
I tried, Mark.
We allow for school staff because the majority of people, all of the requests have gotten from school staff are people wanting to take their lessons or content to their next classroom. We do not allow for central office because they're not creating lesson plans. They're not, they're doing much larger projects or creating much larger documents that potentially have or are going to have a lot more data and have a lot more concern. And if you're creating curriculum at the district level, that's our property. So
you guys don't have a concern of the intellectual property discussion there?
At the teacher level, I don't have that concern. I think if a teacher is creating a lesson plan, it's very low opportunity for that teacher. I get the whole Teachers Pay Teachers website thing, but as an organization, there's not a lot of value in that to that individual lesson plan to us.
Wow, way to say you don't value your teacher's work, Mark.
No, I'm just saying that yes, a teacher is going to take their lesson plan and they might sell it, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be realistic here. That teacher probably made that lesson plan on their own time.
Sure.
And so for me, it's not that's not a fight that or a hill I'm gonna die on. I just think the danger and the risk for us is at the central office level, where there's much bigger sets of data, there's much bigger risk, so we don't allow it there.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So if you go to
Yep.
Mark's school, you can download whatever.
Depends on where you work.
Oh,
I've had those awkward moments where there's like a teacher who's budgeted centrally, but she works in a school.
Oh,
Whatever. We're not going
interesting.
there. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Anyways,
that's how we handle that one. Good luck if you take the Josh approach.
it really wasn't. It was a discussion that kind of the room came to the consensus. It wasn't just. And again, I've had to have this conversation in the last 2 weeks more times than I care. Josh doesn't get to make a lot of decisions. Josh implements decisions. So, like, the hate that I'm feeling about movies not getting approved in Swank and websites not getting unblocked and gaming websites not, like, Josh doesn't make the decision. Josh implements the decision. So,
Yeah, Chris and I had a different discussion. We were in at the conference last week, though. We both of us were at the data privacy conversation,
yes.
and you weren't. And we thought this should be reversed. You're the data privacy, like say no kind of guy thing. But no, But anyway, we had a great time. We had a great time.
Good story. Let's talk, let's talk about ClassLink before we move on real quick. ClassLink, like Clever but better. I thought Chris said he had to stop saying that. If you want more information about ClassLink, check out classlink.com. They do all the interface stuff, rostering stuff like that. Check them out. Tell them you heard about them here, because I apparently need a budget for new shirts because I've got a hole in this shirt I'm wearing. Yeah, check out ClassLink. So, Mark, what are we AI? AI just won't go away. Well,
Yeah, it's not going away, Josh.
Come on,
God,
Mark.
the main topic for tonight is around. So we're finishing up the school year, and guess who's just had their first full year? Artificial intelligence. ChatGPT. So what
AI
we thought we would do. I know it's older, but like let's be real. The consumer AI tools that came out last year have had their first full year, and we thought we'd talk about tonight. How did AI actually change your school? Did it? If so, what are some of the positive things you've heard? And then we'll talk about some of the downsides.
Sure.
So, Josh, you want to go first, or you want me to jump in?
I'll go first. Hiring process. I think there's been some strides there. You know, HR departments have always kind of used resume scrapers to weed out job applicants, but I think AI is helping that get better. It's more than just looking for keywords now. So that's been an improvement in the last year.
So we had this conversation this morning where one person talked about writing resumes with ChatGPT, and then another person said, "Well, wait a minute, I just used artificial intelligence to actually go through all of the job applicants and pull out the top 2 or 3."
Oh,
and then we had this realization that AI is doing our entire hiring screening process, from probably writing a couple of people's resumes to actually screening it out. So yeah. We've seen the same thing too. I've found that the hiring process has been tremendous with the introduction of ChatGPT. Have you actually used it to either write a resume or screen a resume or even write interview questions?
No, I am not looking for a job, Mark.
Sorry. It's really good if you take a job description, pop it into Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever your choice is, and say, write me some interview questions or write a scenario. It's really, really good at that. So it'll take the job description, and I found that like it cuts the prep time when you're getting ready to do a hire. Cuts the prep time down tremendously and gives you some really cool ideas. So if you're looking at, hiring somebody with technical expertise or customer service expertise, having ChatGPT write a scenario is really, really good.
Yeah, interesting. Because that's always one of the things of an interview process that I struggle with is, ask the same questions of every applicant, and yada yada yada. So coming up with decent questions can be kind of hard by yourself. Yeah, I haven't thankfully had to hire anyone recently. So no, that would be awesome to write interview questions.
I'll say some of the positive changes I've seen, at least with some teachers, is lesson planning.
100%.
Teachers have started drafting a list of ideas. They've then used, or if they have an idea for how the lesson, they'll use ChatGPT or Gemini to actually write out a full lesson plan. One of the best applications I saw was somebody had a lesson plan that was okay, but they wanted to make it in the style of one of our local sports teams. So they said, take this lesson plan and then theme it like the Boston Celtics. It was fantastic. So it was a really, really cool way to like specialize an existing lesson plan according to your kids.
Did it mention Jason Tatum, product of St. Louis?
I'll check. But yeah, so it was really cool around how teachers are starting to use it to differentiate their learning and customize some of the lesson plans, or even just take like one of your standard lessons that's from your district curriculum and then
1964
make it
textbook.
Yeah, but like make it very specific to your class, and so you're still following the standards, but you've made it very, very customized to your students. Really cool idea. I like that a lot.
We've had some teachers use Magic School AI for some of that, and then we had without getting into too many specifics, we had a teacher that doesn't struggle with technology, but just has a hard time bringing technology into the classroom. And they found a way to use ChatGPT to differentiate some reading material, and hardcore went all in. It just wasn't dipping a toe into it and getting used to it. Person jumped straight in and went hog wild with it. So it's really cool to see the teachers that kind of struggle at times with different new ideas and don't like leveraging technology, finding something they can leverage. That's super, super cool.
The other one that I've at least had a lot of fun with is writing policy, writing grants. It's not a polished product, but it does a really good job at like starting the document or starting the policy that you're trying to write, and then you can take it and put it into your own words.
Yeah.
Or writing a grant.
I remember last year when ChatGPT first came out, there was a group of us that we were using it to just come up with like, create me a screensaver timeout policy of 35 minutes, and like, ding, done. Create me a password policy, and it was amazing. So policy writing, I think Chris has said he's used it for grant writing.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
So
and even if you just need a document to process, it's great at the stuff that we don't have time to do, but we're always saying, oh, we should have written that down. It's good at that. It's very, very good at that. And then you can kind of customize it, or you can chat back and forth with these things and say, now add this or change it to be that.
Yeah, man, I used Gemini for something the other day, and it was super cool. Like, you get your framework of whatever it is, a letter, policy, whatever, and just minor tweaks, and the ability for it to restructure everything is super cool. It's a game changer for all of that stuff.
I've seen a lot of like experiments in the classroom. I haven't seen a lot of transformation in the classroom.
Yeah.
In terms of like a teacher will use it here or there, and then you kind of go back to your normal routine. I have seen, though, on the workplace side of things, that's where it's starting to change things around. Teachers are using it to write their evaluations. Teachers are using it to evaluate students, both like in their own evaluations and write, here's how I'm doing or my goals, but also in evaluating how students' performance is done, taking like a lot of the paperwork side of it out of teachers. I did hear one of my favorite podcasts is Hard Fork, and they talked last week about a teacher using it to, I'm gonna butcher the exact words, but the teacher was uploading assessment results, and then I know, and then the hair on the back of my head starts to stick up, and then using that to evaluate how students are doing. It's great that you can do that, but like, Josh, what are you?
No, privacy. Yeah. Who's owning that data? It's learning from that data. How's that data being used? Like, yeah.
So a lot of concern around that one. The teacher did say that he had anonymized it. Very, very hard to do. I know. Anonymizing data is a lot harder than you might think.
Yeah.
And just removing a kid's names, it's not necessarily anonymizing it, but
especially if you have teacher of record or teacher who gave it, like there's still ways to identify that data.
yeah, it's definitely something that we should be very, very careful about doing, but it does do a fantastic job of kind of taking the legwork out of grading and things like that.
Excel and Google Sheets formulas. We
Really
we
good.
have summer school sign up going on right now, and I needed to. I struggle sometimes at difficult Google Sheets or Excel. See, I'm including Microsoft, everybody.
Yeah.
Formulas, and I needed a query statement with an import range formula. So I told Gemini, I'm like, okay, I've got a sheet with several columns. I need it to import range on the third column if the answer is yes, or if the cell contains yes. Like immediately, 3 options on how to do an import range with different formulas. I could tweak it a little bit, and then today, the really cool thing, today I had to go back because we were trying to sort the data based on grade level, and you can't do it once you import you can't manipulate the data because it breaks the import range statement. So I went back to Gemini and I said, "Hey, you created me an import range formula. I need to be able to sort that based on a column in the imported range." And boom, 2 options on how to sort an imported range. Like just edit your formula, add sort, and then at the end do column number you want, blah blah blah. Like game changer when it comes to Excel formulas.
Very cool. Very similar to that one. Tom Ryan, who we've talked on the podcast a couple of times.
Who is Tom? I'm not sure I've met Tom. He's a short guy, right?
Cosen's Man of the Year.
He's pretty short.
Pretty short.
Like pretty quiet, not kind of shy.
6'5". Yeah. He was traveling, and at the after you travel, sometimes you might do reimbursements, right? You have your receipts, and you have usually your company or sponsor, whatever it is, will send here's a spreadsheet, fill this out with all of your things and categorize it. Well, he uploaded the spreadsheet and he uploaded his receipts, pictures of the receipts, and said, fill this out for me. And it did it perfectly. It took the Uber rides and put that into the taxi cab line. Wow. It took his hotel receipt and put that into the hotels. It took his airplane receipt, put it there, it put his meals in there. I think it even took out certain things that weren't eligible under meals. Like unbelievable
wow.
What it can do.
Was he the guy that tried inviting himself to dinner with us and we told him no? I think it was. What kind of short guy? Bald?
Short guy. Yeah. No. But anyways, very, very cool to see that kind of thing. I mean, if you've ever done that kind of exercise of mapping out, this line goes here, or categorizing PDFs into spreadsheets, it's amazing how well it does that. So I will say, at least in my opinion, the changes that I've seen over the year have been small but very, very impressive.
Yeah.
But I have not yet seen anybody whose job has fundamentally changed, and I have definitely not seen any classrooms that have fundamentally changed as a result of AI this year. Not yet.
Yeah, it still comes back to that buy-in. I think when you had, it's the same thing when you have new teachers coming in that have always had access to that technology. That's when you're going to start seeing your fundamental shift, or your whole district maybe grade level shift happen, because now it's just another one of those things. It's another tool that we've added and made available to teachers that have been teaching 10, 15, 20 years. I think what you're going to see 5 years from now, when you have teachers that are graduating that have had AI tools like this all throughout their college career and have had experience, one, using it from a student's perspective, and then using it as a professional, that's when you're going to start seeing real change in a classroom.
Yeah. Well, speaking of change, not all change is positive. Josh, what are some of the negative, or have you seen any negative?
Why am I the negative person?
We've established that, but we can go ahead.
Yeah. Students using it to create content and claim it as their own, so plagiarism. So you guys talked about proxies a couple weeks ago, Rammerhead and Interstellar. We are having a hell of a time with those right now. I apparently blocked a very, very popular one the other day. and I had a student write me an email asking it to be unblocked, but clearly the email was generated by ChatGPT. I mean, just dear sir, I hope this finds you well. Okay, this is an AI. This is ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So, and like I asked him, I'm like, hey, I replied to him and said something like, I have a feeling that you used an AI tool to create this email. I want to remind you that, you at least in your schoolwork, you really should be doing your own content and not using AI, blah, blah, blah. It was just really funny. I used AI to create my reply and then added a little something at the end.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's funny.
it's just, you can easily tell. And I think
Yeah. Yeah.
as they get better though, it's going to be harder to tell. And
I do think, especially at K-12, the whole concern of like teachers cheating and students overusing it. Yeah, it's there and it has happened, and I think every school has gone through it. At the same time, it's so obvious right
yeah,
now. It's so obvious at the K-12 level
well, and
when a student's using it.
I come back to the teacher is still the human in the room. And
Yeah,
one of the jobs of the teacher is to build those relationships and know those students. If a kid turns in a paper, even written, say 60% with an AI tool,
yeah,
a really good classroom teacher is going to be able to figure that out because they know they have a relationship with that student and they know their either speaking style or writing style.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
they'll get caught.
I had somebody criticize that if we're going to allow teachers, and we just went through all the positive stuff that staff and teachers are using it for, if we're going to allow that, then why are we not going to allow students to do it? And I think to a certain extent, I can see that as a valid point. I think the difference though is some of the examples that we've talked about, like especially the one of, putting your receipts into the spreadsheet. All of us can do that,
Yeah.
and we're using it as a time saving opportunity. It's magnifying our existing abilities, and we're saying, instead of spending 2 hours doing this task, I'm going to spend 15 minutes. I am capable of doing the entire task. I'm using AI to ease
Well,
my burden.
yeah.
Students, though, we're talking about, hang on a second, the task is for them to learn how to do this
Right.
on their own.
Right.
And when they're using AI, so I do think context is so important as to when you allow it and when you say this isn't the right setting.
And I think this will change over the next couple of years, but I think the conversation or the mentality of it is similar to the calculator. When
Yeah.
you're in second grade, you're learning arithmetic, you're learning multiplication, you're learning add, subtract, that kind of stuff. Once you've got that foundation, then you can add that tool that
Yeah.
is a time saver and does it for you. Same thing with AI tools like this. You need to establish the foundation of what is a paragraph, what is a
Yeah.
short essay, what is a longer research paper. Once
Yeah.
you have that foundation laid, why not use the tool and teach the appropriate way to use the tool?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'm breaking some ground here, people. I don't know.
Have you seen any bullying, any like inappropriate student use of AI, either bullying or like maybe malicious usage of it?
Um, I can't say I have, but I can't say I've gone out of my way to look for it either.
Okay.
And it hasn't come up in a conversation with any of our principals.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of those places where you being exponentially bigger, you're probably going to see that before I will.
Um, to be honest, we have not seen any bullying using AI this year. I wouldn't necessarily say it would always rise to my level, but at the same time, I think when that does start happening, I'm gonna hear about it pretty quickly from principals who
Yeah.
are like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I wasn't expecting this." I'm hearing it in other schools. I've heard a couple of news articles of students who will um, write something about another person, or they will write a letter to another student. There was a news article a few weeks ago about, was it Baltimore or Georgia? I think it was Georgia. An athletic director had released a deep fake audio
Oh
of the
yeah.
principal.
Yeah.
The principal saying some pretty very inappropriate and terrible things. And it was determined to be a deep fake, and it was traced back to the athletic director. He's in trouble. But I think that's going to start to come out a little bit more And I think people are gonna, well, hopefully people will take a second look if you do see a damaging video or audio, say, well, wait a minute, is this real or is this a deep fake?
Yeah.
But that's going to come out. I think that's going to be year 2 of like more of the malicious usage of it.
And that's why you should never do voice authentication on any of your accounts.
I'm shocked that I'm still seeing phishing emails with horrible misspellings. And grammar.
Yeah.
It blows my mind because you can so easily write an email or a letter in ChatGPT or Gemini, and it will not know what you're actually trying to do, at least in the beginning. So why we're still getting these terribly formatted, horribly written Nigerian print scam letters and emails and things like that. I don't know why that's still going on, but that was something I thought would be a lot easier to spot by now. But I haven't seen it yet.
And finally, I think we are kind of already talked about that. Data privacy concerns. Mark's story of dumping testing information into an AI tool. Yeah, there's a data concern there, a data privacy concern there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you get around that besides just saying it over and over and over and over and over again until you're blue in the face. So,
yeah.
Speaking of purple in the face, Extreme Networks, they're really cool purple switches. If you haven't seen them, I've been running Extreme for the better part of, 9, almost 10 years at my district. Solid switches. If you want to know more, reach out to Dominic Mayer, D Mayer, Mayer, at extremenetworks.com. And like with all of our sponsors, tell them you heard about them here. Mark, you have any closing thoughts? We're coming up on graduation here. Oh, I have a story. Can I tell a story, Mark?
I mean, it depends. Is this an Alaska story or like we're wrapping up the episode?
No, this is a make your butt pucker story. Yeah.
We should just wrap. We should wrap up.
No, it's a story about GAM and how it went horribly wrong.
All right, go ahead.
So, let's just say a district was trying to deprovision 35 devices, and they were using GAM because GAM is an amazing scripting tool for Google Workspace. And you can feed GAM CSV files and say, do this command to all of the records in this CSV file. Well, the CSV file contained 35 records of asset tags. And the command that GAM was going to run was a deprovision command for the device in Google Workspace. Okay, we all know what happens when you do that. When you deprovision a device, you're losing that license of that device. You can get into the caveat of ways you can't or you won't lose the license, but for our sake of argument, you lose the license. So that command is run, and about 10 minutes later, the phone starts to ring from all over the district of devices that have been deprovisioned that were not in the CSV file. Well, come to find out, this version of GAM, the asset ID in the CSV file was a 3-character asset ID. Well, when you run that command, it does a lookup and a search of asset IDs that contain those 3 numbers. So if you have, let's say, 4,000 devices, and that 3-digit number might come up several times, say 10 times. This district deprovisioned about 260 devices instead of 35 devices with GAM. So that was a panic-filled afternoon.
Josh, you're speaking as if like you know a lot of detail about.
Yeah, I know a lot of details about this story.
Okay, but it's a listener email. Wink, wink.
I don't know why you're winking.
From your district.
Mark. All right. So if you're in the market for a firewall or switches or phones or log analyzer or EDR or tokens, Wi-Fi, I think that's all the big ones, maybe. I'm sure I'm missing something because they have an amazingly long product list. Check out Fortinet and our friend Chris over there at Fortinet, Chris Illingworth. The email address to find out more information. They're top tier firewall, they're top tier EDR, they're top tier switching and wireless. And if you want Fortinet from top to bottom, You can manage it all from the FortiGate, all your switching ports, all your wireless SSIDs, all of it. Your EDR can tell your firewall to take action, all of it. Email fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com. That goes straight to our friend Chris over there at Fortinet. Tell him again that you heard about him here. All right, that was episode 166. I don't think Chris is back next week. He's let's be truthful. He's on probation again. We won't get into why, but it's a 2-week probation. So yeah, maybe Mark will work on a really special guest. We'll see if he can open his Rolodex and see who he can get. All right, let's see. That's it. Email us k12techtalk@gmail.com. We're on Twitter. Share us with your friends. It's that time of year where our listenership goes down, but we're well over 100,000 listens now. Share us with your friends. California, you guys rock. You're every month, your top state. Illinois is in there too. Thanks for listening.
What?
I said Illinois is in there too. Illinois 'S, Mark, not Illinois.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just saying, if this is 2 weeks in a row that somebody named Josh messed up.
What did Josh Olstead say?
Well, okay, so he said Illinois.
But did he really?
It could be interpreted as just what you just did there. Illinois 'S.
Okay. Interesting.
We'll go back to the recording on this one.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed on the K12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.